I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Sparky. And I think last week and a half ago, we did Disturbed. And everybody almost, usually you hear, oh, do this, do that, do this.
Get this chair back here. Making our set look bootleg.
But it was almost like with one voice. Univocal. Sound of Silence by Disturbed.
That makes it easier.
Yeah, it does actually. It does actually. So I'm pretty certain this was a cover. Don't know the name of the band that they covered, but this is like a 60s song or something like that.
Okay.
So anyway, Sound of Silence. I guess the last Disturbed song we did was a cover too. Well, the really positive one?
Yeah, maybe we do a lot of covers.
So, I don't know. One of our villagers...
How do they get away with that?
I know, right? Like, you figure they'd get one of those copyright things.
Yeah,
I'm sure the
thinking.
record label does something or... I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get to talk to Disturbed and they'll be able to explain
Answer
to
that
us
question.
how the hell... Because I'm pretty sure we're gonna get hit.
Right. So how come... they'll take 100% of our proceeds.
Yeah, isn't it usually like the first 15 seconds or whatever? I don't know.
Yes. Well,
Let's have a vote. Should we start cutting up our videos?
Stop it, Vin. No, but it's an honest, genuine, serious question. I'm saying, how come, they can do that without getting all of their proceeds taken away?
Well, Disturbed is playing the song.
Yeah.
So maybe that's different. We're not playing the song. We're watching.
So if we played it and sung it, we would get all.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't
copyright that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, maybe we should start doing that.
We'll sing all the songs. Vinny here is gonna play them for you, and then we'll review them after. They're all gonna be 10s.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I really like the way that guy covered that track. It was a good track. It was a good job. That African American fella.
Yep.
Sound of Silence, Disturbed. Let's do it.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared.
Oh. Bring up the lyrics.
It's like you were having quite the moment there.
Yup. Probably don't have a clue what the song's about, but I have my own story.
Okay.
So, can you say what it was? I don't know if you should start or if I should start. So at the beginning, I guess I'll just say what I got out of it, even though it's probably not at all what this people were trying to communicate. So hello darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. The whole beginning part to me was just like kind of like darkness, like depression or sadness or loneliness. And then like in the restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone. So all of that part was just like that, the way that you could feel lonely like in a crowded room or around whatever, like just those feelings of like separation or all kinds of things that we experience as people and as we age. Oh my word. And then when it got to verse 3, and in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never shared, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Like, I just like, it was like such a God moment for me, because I was thinking like, when, because sometimes this life is so hard, and there's things that you go through and you experience, and painful experiences, and sorrows, and degrees of sorrow and degrees of pain. And then I was like, when we finally like meet God face to face, and like it said 10,000 people, maybe more, but like obviously in heaven like there's gonna be tons and tons and tons of people, but like it just made me think like all the people are there, and like the people that you've lost and the people that you've loved, and like everybody's gonna come together, and people talking without speaking, because like now we struggle to communicate with each other, and sometimes even you use tons and tons of words and you can't like communicate how you really feel or what you're really thinking, and then sometimes at the end of discussions you feel like it was like a waste, and you feel worse after because you're like, I didn't communicate, they didn't understand. But like, I believe that when we all get there, like we're gonna understand each other, and we're gonna be understood by one another, but obviously we're gonna be most understood by God, and we're gonna understand things about God. So that's what that was, like all of us there, like with God, and you know, people that have gone before us and people that will die after us, and then sharing things, people writing songs that voices never shared, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence, because like the beauty of actually being able to communicate without like words, like, and without, I don't know, and like the closeness and tight knitness, like the tight knit like community that we can be when we don't have sin that separates us, and ways that we hurt each other and things like that. So like it was just cool. Like that's all then that was like the moment for me, and like I don't know, I just felt like that, like I don't know, God showed me that, and he was like, that's how it's gonna be, like the song, I don't even know what the song is about, because that's what it was for me. So it's not about, you know, the like getting together with the darkness, oh my old friend, like that's how it feels sometimes, and that kind of like sadness or depression or whatever kind of comes at you, you're like, oh hello you again. But it won't be like that. Anyway, what was the song about?
No, I mean,
Pause. We gotta pause.
No.
Well, you need to get a tissue. The sister gonna pass that to me. It's a paper towel will work. Go ahead.
Well, I can't say anything like significant with you.
Well, I was gonna stop it, but you said
half out of the frame.
leave it going.
I guess we can. I don't know. Shout.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's about communication, and it talks about silence but there are sounds, especially verse 3. I thought verse 3 was a very, very important stanza in the song because it kind of brought everything together. Fool, said I, you do not know, silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I may teach you, take my arms that I may reach you. But my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence. So it's like, it's just this vision of like you're speaking, these words are coming out, and then as soon as they come out, they get muted because nobody can hear anybody.
Why can't they hear each other?
Well, it's so.
Are you saying that they physically can't, or they don't understand, so they can't?
People can't. People aren't understanding each other. People aren't talking. People aren't communicating. People aren't hearing what the person's saying, like behind the words.
Yeah, but why is it saying no one dare disturb the sound of silence?
Because nobody's saying anything.
I think I'm thinking too concretely.
What do you got from it?
No, I already said what my what my thing was, and I'm sure it wasn't what they were saying, but I'm trying to understand what the song is actually about. This guy's voice was friggin' unbelievable.
This is a guy from Disturbed.
That voice, man, and like the instruments, like this is on point. Like it's one of those songs that like it's weird because now I'm going back to my own situation. Gosh, like the whole, there's some songs that you listen to when you're sad.
Yeah.
Well, this one kind of like started out with, I was like, oh, this is going on the depression track, But then I was like, that middle part hit, and I was like, oh, okay, it's good. Like, but anyway, so I'm just asking you questions because I don't have a vision for this song, like what the artist was actually trying to communicate at all.
Well, what's interesting?
What's the neon light?
What's interesting is the neon lights. It seems to be about technology and like. Because it's attention grabbing.
Yeah. Okay.
And it symbolizes like flashy technology, but at the same time, just complete and total distraction. That's why the neon light, it says his eyes were stabbed.
Yeah.
By the flash of neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. So it's like, you got this unnatural, I don't know, you've never like really been in like city life, like in the...
No, I went a couple times to New York City.
Yeah, you went a couple times.
Really bright.
Yeah, it's just extremely bright and like just flashing. Everything's flashing and neon and it dilutes the actual human beings that you're around. You can't hear everything because you're so distracted by it.
Yeah, that.
So it stabs and it's contrasted. So that's the end of stanza 2. It gets contrasted.
Social media does that.
Right. Of course, this was written in the 60s, so there was no social media at the time, so that was the thing. Ooh, neon lights, And so, but it's contrast. The end of verse 2 is contrasted with verse 3. In the naked light I saw. So the neon lights are contrasted with the naked light, like the reality. Because in verse 3 he sees reality. Verse 2 is like the halo of a street lamp, da 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 da. Yeah. But then when his eyes get stabbed by this neon light, and then he sees the truth because he's seeing in naked light. But what's interesting is that I took this as actually a Christ figure, and it's interesting because here's a guy who sees the light, basically sees the truth, and then in verse 4 he's trying to get everybody around him. Hear my words that I might teach you. Mm-hmm. Take my words that I might reach you. But his words fell like silent raindrops, And there's that passage in Isaiah where Jesus says, I spent my strength in vain. I talked all this stuff for nothing. Everybody's just as ignorant as they were before. And God has to kind of come and say, no, man, it's not like that. You're gonna accomplish your job, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is the whole song is kind of like about communication and like speaking and not words like silent raindrops fell. And what's interesting is in the Gospel of John, when Jesus, Josh, that's what you start with. When Jesus is introduced, he's introduced as the Word.
Yep.
And it's kind of this idea that God's like constantly been speaking to us, and he gets, even when he speaks, his voice gets like silenced.
Yeah.
And so he comes down himself, but when he comes down, he calls himself the Word. Because he's like, I want to talk to you guys. So like, I'm going to embody what my message is as like in flesh and bone and as a person, and I'm gonna speak to you. But yeah, it was interesting because we were watching a thing and this guy was talking about quitting social media.
Right.
And he was saying you need to quit social media. Now, of course, for us, like, fuck you.
I'm like,
You know, but obviously we have a vested interest in people not quitting social media.
Right.
And I think that we're a good corner in social media.
No, I agree. I would say, though, like, I was watching this when we went on our little vacation, concussion. When we were there, like, we were walking because we had to go to the main office, and we walked past a room, and the guy had his shades wide open, and the light was on, and so I looked in, and he was sitting on his bed looking at the TV like this, and his little kid was, like, running around the room, and, like, I like, felt bad for the kid. You know, and I felt bad for the dad who's gonna grow, like, his child's gonna grow up and he's gonna go off and then he's gonna be like, where did the time go? Like, I didn't spend any time, like, with my kid. Like, and I think that we're in danger of that kind of thing happening because there's so much to see on social media that you can be sitting right there with your kids but miss all the time with them because you never, you know, like, I took the girls out in the woods today and, something flashed on my screen, one of the notifications, and it, like, caught my eye, and so, like, I read the notification, and it only took me like 5 seconds, and then when I looked back up, there was this tree that we were climbing across. She had already made it to the other side of the tree, and I was like, oh no. I was like, I missed the moment where Zori was going across there, you know? And so I was like, okay, I don't care what notifications come across, I'm not gonna look, because I wanted to see those moments of them balancing on the tree and going across and stuff. But I think that if we're not conscious of it, we can, you know, I think that if people aren't conscious of it, then you can miss out on a lot of what's going on around you in your kids' lives and stuff like that. Like, so, I mean, this guy is the neon lights of the city or whatever, but I think that what that guy was saying was, you know, it's all about the balancing of it, just making sure that it's not so much that you can't see what's going on around you. You know, I think it's cool when you stop and go play football with the boys and, well, and the girls too when they want to play, but anyway.
Yeah.
What? Why are you making that weird face?
No, I mean, yeah. Verse 5, the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning to the words that it was forming. The words of the prophets are written on subway walls and tenement halls and whispered in the sound of silence. So it's like, you know, humanity is like moving toward this, you know, flashy, technological, you know, era of communication, but it's not really communication. It's just a bunch of distracted people that aren't really saying anything. But the sign then comes out and says, and it flashes its warning. It says the words of the prophets are written on subway walls, which is like, if you were to compare, and again, this is to us, neon lights are cheesy.
Right.
Like, oh my God, like neon lights, good Lord. But can you imagine, like, when it first came out, it was like, oh shit, look at these neon lights.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because we're looking at it like, this is cheese. This is like complete cheese, but I guess...
It wouldn't even distract me, a neon light.
Right, neon lights would distract us other than to be able to say, look at this cheesy shit. Look at this fucking, you know, Wild Bills, whatever.
Wild
you know, with
Bills,
the hat, you know. But back then, it must have been like, whoa, neon lights. So when you compare the flashiness and the elegance of neon lights versus words scribbled on a subway wall, it's like, what catches your attention? And the idea is like, this is more advanced, this is more whatever, this is rich, and this is dingy, you know, subway, you know. But the words of prophets are written there, like, it's in those places that aren't flashy, that aren't whatever, and are dingy, and what you would just overlook in tenement halls, like the ghettos, you know, the projects. Like, that's where the real wisdom is. You're so distracted.
And what wisdom is that?
This is the words of the prophets.
What are the prophets saying? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense what you're saying to me.
It's not... He doesn't go into what the prophets say. The wisdom in this whole thing is that where the location of where the wisdom is.
It's not where... Well, fuck, I wouldn't expect it on a subway wall either, but you're just saying in comparison, the subway wall over and against the flashing light.
Well, yeah, and then in tenement halls, like the ghettos,
Yeah.
that's where you're gonna find the wisdom, because they don't have access to those resources to get to that advancement.
Yeah.
Then they still have some of their humanity left. Because the more and more and more you evolve into this, whatever, the more of the humanity that you lose, and we see it in social media.
Right.
How many people in social media are really saying anything?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the draws of our channel, is that we don't underestimate the audience.
Right.
But a lot of people in social media, you can tell by the content that they put out what they think of their audience. So as we've I'm not mad at them because they're whatever. But as we go and we advance technologically, the less and less deep we become.
Right.
And so that's why you have 95% of the shit that's on social media is just shit.
Right.
Whether it's Facebook or whatever. And you like we always talk about, people lose their humanity in social media. Like, they act in certain ways that they wouldn't act.
Yeah,
Whereas
I
a
agree.
person who doesn't have social media and only interacts with actual human beings is way more socially developed than a person who's addicted to social media.
Right.
So, there's only about 3 things in life that you really need to know. And all this other stuff is completely irrelevant.
What 3 things is that?
How'd you get here? Why are you here? And where are you going?
Oh.
That's it. That's all you need. And so, like, there's all this, other stuff that's completely distracting you from that. And really, like,
Are you gonna write one of those ebooks? on that?
most of the stuff that we talk about is falls into one of those 3.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So, and our audience are, they always enrich us with a different angle, and so it becomes this kind of cyclical thing where we, but there's a lot of stuff here where it's just like, and whispered in the sound of silence. What's ironic is that it seems that silence plays like a dual role. Like, at some perspectives it's bad. Like in verse 3, it's bad because everybody's talking, nobody's hearing anything. But here, you still get the ancient wisdom in silence at the end of the song. So it's like, it's managing the silence and understanding when it's important and when silence is good and when silence is not good. Like, if you're communicating and nobody can ever understand you, that's not good. But it's a form of silence when that happens. But it's interesting because it makes sounds.
Yep.
I hear you, but I don't hear you, type of thing.
Yep.
So the song does a really good job of saying, okay, that type of silence is bad.
Right.
But the silence where you're sitting and you're contemplating and you're, listening to God, for me, like, that's what it's talking about, right? Like, it gets super theological in the end. The neon God they made.
Right.
You're worshiping technology and worshiping flashy, shallow bullshit that doesn't get you anywhere. And then, but here it's like, if you can hear the words of the prophets, it's in the sound of silence at the end of the song.
Is it weird that the sign was flashing out the warning?
No, because I think underpinning all of this, at least from my worldview, is God saying, hello!
Oh.
Hello!
Yeah.
I think God inspired this song. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I agree.
So you can still hear, and there's a biblical story of the guy, and he's having a hard time, and he goes and runs away, and then there's a big earthquake, and it said God wasn't in the earthquake, and there's a big giant fire, and but God wasn't in the fire, and then there was a still small voice, and God was in the still small voice. And that's very significant, because it tells you a lot about God. Because what's interesting is you'll see God do stuff in the Bible that's like very neon flashy. But what that story is telling us is that, like, that's just to get your attention. My default mode is actually the small voice.
To speak gently to you.
Well, yeah. Well, the other thing is, if it's a still voice.
Yeah.
If the voice is still, that means that it's not moving. Like, you have to fucking slow down to hear it.
That's so true.
And if it's small, that means you kind of have to lean in. And so it's kind of...
Yeah.
So it's God's default way of saying, okay, you guys are all busy bodies. You guys are all running around and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to make my voice really small. So you have to stop what you're doing and lean into me to hear me.
Well, I think when you talk about prayer and stuff, and that, people say prayer is just talking to God, which it is.
Right.
But like, if you've ever been like in a group of kids and you want them to get quiet and you start like whispering what you're trying to say, and then they all get quiet because they want to hear, like, so if you think about like God, he wants that closeness with us. So if people are like all busy and chaotic and stuff and he does a still small voice, they have to stop and like lean in. Like, it's also about that closeness,
Yeah, and I think, of course, our default as human beings, because we're so anthropocentric, is to just look at everything from the horizontal and say, wow, this is really fucked up. Oh, people are talking, nobody's hearing anything. But, like, none of us are even considering, well, what if this was God saying, I've been talking to you people for millions of years. Like, is anybody going to shut up and listen?
You smell that burning? I'm sorry. You think the kids are...
I think he's all right. There we go. There's a giant existential moment destroyed again. What do you give the song?
Well, I have to give it a 10 because of my experience with it. It was a really phenomenal song. I really liked it a lot. Like, I really liked it. I wouldn't say that it was complex. It didn't seem complex to me. But I think that's what I liked about it. And I liked the sound of it. Like, it wasn't like some crazy breakdown solo whatever, but it was like, I liked it.
Yeah, I was about to say this song is really driven by the lyrics because there really is no chorus. There's no chorus. It's just duh, and then it ends with the sound of silence at the end of every stanza. So this is an extremely lyrical song. But the musicianship I thought was good too. It was very, very subtle. They didn't try anything flashy with it because that would have been against the point of the song in the first place, which was just slow down and listen. I think he took it up, and we'd have to listen to.
I do want to hear the original.
To the original, because I'd like to see the contrast. But this is a 10 for me as well. This was
really.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Very deep.
Oh, wow.
A song I could sit and listen to the kids with, and like this is one of them that you put in the time capsule for sure.
Well,
a good song.
That surprised me. I didn't expect that from you.
Really? What'd you think I was gonna rate it?
I just thought that you were gonna give it like a 6 or something.
A 6?
Yeah.
I get the feeling that this is like one of those classic songs.
Okay, it totally feels classic to me. But I usually miss the classics, You're like, this is a freaking classic! I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but I feel like this is like another level of classic song. Like,
well, this one had a sound that was like, old and special.
Well, yeah. As I said, like, those memories I had about the 70s.
Yeah. Yep.
I wasn't born in the 70s, but I remember the 70s.
He always says things like that.
So, yeah, it's very interesting. No One Dare Disturb the Silence, the name of the song. The band is Disturbed. Silence like a cancer grows. Alright, that's a 10 for me, for sure.
It's so weird because usually whenever we do a 10, we're like, whoa, motherfucker! But like, we're both like, that's a 10.
I think it would go against the ethos of what the song was trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
On the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement